Okay. Representative Johnson, very nice to have you today. Before we get further into it, I do want to ask for your permission to record and to share this on our platforms and for our Seats and Streets participatory action research study.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Welcome. And I want to get right into it because it's that season. So I want to make sure you understand Seats and Streets. It exists to demystify civics for our communities and to elevate conversations about what it truly means to participate, register, and vote. Three simple actions we can all do. We talk directly with political candidates running for office right now. It's actually a conversation for everyone. And we want to have you start off the conversation with how you understand civic engagement, leadership, and participation beyond Election Day. So these are designed to be accessible, grounded, and relevant to everyone's day to day. So everyone, in this episode, we speak with Representative Julie Johnson, and she is a North Texas legislature for the, 3 terms and now running and currently serving as a representative for District 32. Forgive me if I trip up on this a little bit because we switched up for District 32, but you are running for District 33. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, yes. And so this is district that stretches across Dallas County. And we're going to talk today about your perspective on civic engagement, representation, and how communities stay meaningfully involved in shaping these decisions. Is there anything that you would like to make sure is part of your introduction for Dallas listeners?
Um, I just think that it's just about if you're since this is really kind of focused on civics and engagement, right? It's be politically aware, be involved, take your time to learn who's doing things, who's doing like how the process works, to be an informed person so that you can accurately measure people who are seeking your vote, and whether or not you want to do this yourself. It's really hard work to be in elected office, but it's worthy work, and it's worth having people there if you care about your community, care about issues, to be willing to be in the fire, so to speak.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. So we always start off our conversation with a question about respect, uh, particularly when it comes to the kind of political discourse. What does respect mean to you? And what should that look like from voters, peers, and people with different views?
Mm. I think respect is a recognition that not everyone has the same experience, the sense, the same worldview, the same perspective that you do, but that doesn't mean that their perspective is wrong. It's just different. One person's perspective is not more important than another person's perspective. And recognizing that you have different paths and you may get to the same place and you may get to a different place. But that doesn't necessarily, by definition, mean that that person is a bad person or isn't worthy or has no merit. And so, um, and I think also having political respect is having a desire to work on the things where you agree, and then you can respect the differences where you don't. I have a history of working in a very bipartisan way. And people ask me, how can you possibly work with this person because they're just so terrible on this other issue. And I'm like, well, that's the space where we found common ground. And so that's the space where we work together. We fight like hell on the things that we disagree, and that's okay. But you have to have a long and a short memory in politics. You have to obviously remember the long arc of who's there day in and day out, who shares your values, but you can't be so entrenched that you're refusing to work with somebody on an issue where you can because you disagree with them on so many others. And because that's not what public service is about, and that's not what effectiveness is about. That's just performative politics. If all you're going to do is object to ever doing something with somebody, an example of that is me and Senator Bob Hall. There's no secret that I'm the first out lesbian LGBT person elected to Congress from Texas. The LGBTQ community is very important to me. Our equality is something I take very personally and passionately. Senator Bob Hall is one of the biggest homophobes in the Texas legislature and is one of the most outspoken um, people harming our community. And we see there's absolutely nothing about our political viewpoints that agree on this issue. However, I am also a big patient safety advocate. And after all the doctor death cases here, I wanted to overhaul the system that allowed hospitals to pass on bad doctors from one facility to another to stop that from happening. And Bob Hall wanted to work with me on that. And so I was thrilled to have his support, and we got that bill passed, and it's into law now. And a lot of people thought, oh my God, the Texas Capitol is going to have an earthquake because there's a Julie Johnson and a Bob Hall bill. Never ever thought we would see that happening. But I wasn't going to allow my um, disgust for his positions towards the LGBT community to cloud my ability to make our healthcare space safer for patients in Texas. And if I had an opportunity to move that needle forward, so I would call that political respect. It's not that I agree with him because I viciously and vehemently don't, but to say that I won't work with him at all on anything because I disagree with him over here is politically immature in my opinion. And that's performative politics because now I feel better because I help make our Texas medical landscape safer for patients. And I feel good about that.
Absolutely. I do know healthcare is one of the issues that you have had a lot of impact and used your voice. For and continuing on that, it's a great example. How do you do that on a personal basis? You've referred to performative politics, you've referred to immaturity, and as far as kind of characteristics that we want to avoid when we're making political decisions and collaborating. Are there other kind of ways that you work past that on a regular basis and bridging
Well,
conversations?
obviously, there are members in politics that I greatly disagree with, right? And they have said things that are very harmful to me personally in the community I belong to. It's an anathema to the values that I hear. And I have absolutely no compunction to say I'll do everything I can to elect somebody else that I agree with. I think that's just politics, right? You have to understand that you are on political opposites. You have different viewpoints. You belong to different political parties, and I'm going to do everything I can to see that a Democrat gets elected. But that doesn't mean that I can't be emotionally mature enough to set those down over here and work on an issue because I was elected to move the needle forward for the people, to take steps forward to improve the lives of the people I represent.
Absolutely.
And if you can't um, put your feelings aside in order to be effective in the building, then you have no business being there. You can have, um, all your feelings, at home screaming at your TV. But feelings doesn't get, kids food. Feelings doesn't give women access to reproductive health care. Feelings doesn't make those trans kids feel safe in our state. There's a lot of important work that we have to do. And so I can be angry about policy positions that Republicans have taken. But if I have a Republican that's willing to work with me to make life better, then I'm going to do it.
Absolutely. And is this something that voters can do in their everyday in working in their communities? Is that something that voters can do in the same
Well,
way?
I think voting is so interesting. I was having a conversation about this today about purity tests of party purity tests. There's some voters that are like, if you're not 100% um, perfect with me on all the issues, then you're a terrible elected official and you don't deserve to win, right? Even though you're very effective in some spaces, other ways. And I think you see this on both the left and the right. they have these purity tests that if you haven't 100% towed the line with the very far edges of the thing, then they won't support you and they'll do everything they can to tear you down and try to put somebody out there who can't get elected. At the end of the day, for me, when I look at candidates that I'm going to support and other elected officials that I'm going to align with, that is my core North Star is, are you effective in the spaces where you are? Um, because there are only 435 members of Congress in the whole country. There are 214 Democratic members of Congress. What the hundreds of millions of people in this country need is for the 214 of us to be as effective as we can, to be able to work within that building, to work within the system, to get stuff passed, to stop bad things, to pass good things. And if we take a position that's alienating, we're not going to ever get it done. Like an example was I was on a screening and somebody said, "Are you going to oppose Hakeem Jeffries for leader?" I'm like, "Well, that is so dumb." What? Oh, so you want me to be one of 213 people to oppose Hakeem Jeffries as speaker? And how effective do you think that's going to make me in the building? Not at all. So, I mean, I think that's an example of a ridiculous purity test from the left because I think somebody said, well, I'm not going to support Hakeem Jeffries. And I'm thinking, well, he's going to be the speaker from the Democratic side. And if you're going to be a Democrat that's not going to support Hakeem Jeffries, then you're not going to get a damn thing done for anybody that you represent. And is that really the goal that you're here to do?
That is the question. And as people think about what's the most that they can do, how is it that they can be effective in their own community and their lives? How can people see civic engagement as more than politics, but as everyday life? How does it play out in every day
I
beyond
think it's
election?
about being involved in your community and recognizing that community is bigger than you and you are bigger and you are part of it. And when the community as a whole succeeds, you succeed. And it's about helping the neighbor, helping, um, giving back, being part of a solution, uh, and being present. Um, it really makes a difference to your own self and to your involvement in the world and how you see it. And then I think when you get involved in your community and you realize that the community is bigger than you and that the world is not just only about you, but about a broader picture, then you find your way to plug in and you find your connection to it, and you realize that your vote matters, public policy matters, and that when your neighbor succeeds, you succeed.
What is your first civic memory? What is it that you would say as far as I got involved in the community? I understood that it was bigger than me. What would you say is your first experience with that?
I don't know. It would have been such a long time ago. Um, I would imagine some volunteer group I did in high school, in some high school club I was part of, something probably like that. It's been a long time.
Yeah. And that's where it starts, and that's really the hope we hope to convey that this is something that can happen every day. So even in high school when we're doing those volunteer hours, that's a part of being civically engaged. So in thinking of District 33, what's something about your community or the city that captures the spirit or the challenges of civic engagement?
Well, this district is very diverse. Um, it's while it all is contained in Dallas County, there's parts of it that have great wealth. There's parts of it that are extreme poverty. We have some of the finest restaurants. We have food deserts. We have some of the finest healthcare institutions. We have healthcare deserts, all within this one district. We have limited broadband access. We have the finest things that life can offer. There's very different experiences for people that live in this 33rd district. And my goal is to uh, bring those resources, bring those opportunities so that everyone feels like they have their shot at living their best life.
Wonderful. When we think about having people have a shot, I think about them being able to use their voice and shaping their community. How do you decide when to speak up and when to listen in public conversations?
Mm. I typically listen first. That's always been I'm a trial attorney, so I'm used to listening to witnesses and then asking questions. That's kind of how I've always functioned. My profession trains me that way, and so that's typically what I do. I listen first and speak later.
That's good advice. Uh, and here's one I'm very interested. Can you share a time when you changed your mind on a civic or political issue?
Oh, well, there's a lot of times. I think we all grow and we all evolve as we learn, and as we mature and circumstances change, right? Um, and so I think maybe Medicare for all might be one where, I didn't think the system was going to work. I think I have a lot of concerns about the implementation of Medicare for all, in that it assumes that all the medical providers are going to be participating in that program. And there's a lot of data that suggests a lot of medical providers will not participate in that program. And so I've always had some skeptical perspectives about it. But I think we're in an acute healthcare crisis in this country. I do a lot of healthcare policy where I've opened up to really digging in deeper and evaluating to see where we are with that program with a single payer option for people, because we have to do something.
Absolutely. Thank you. And does that continue to impact or shape your worldview or your personal approach, that change of mind?
Well, sure. I think it's about um, always being willing to listen and learn and to take in new information and to evolve and not be entrenched in a position because you think it's the only one, but always being willing to adapt and move, and listen to the needs of your constituents and also to the landscape about what we're functioning in.
Absolutely. And what impact do you hope to leave on your community, or public life?
I guess that the fact that when my public service is done, that I did a good job. I tried my best and I made it better.
Wonderful. These are, is there anything else in wrapping up our conversation about civic engagement and civic life? Is there anything going into, we're starting early voting tomorrow. We can't say that enough, that we're going to be doing early voting tomorrow. And we've been talking here at Dallas Weekly about a voting plan. I first want to ask you, what is your voting plan? And and what words of advice do you have for
Yeah.
people who want to make sure that they
Well, voting is paramount. I do believe it's a civic obligation to have an input into this role of your government. That's what makes our country unique. That's what separates us from dictatorships and authoritarian regimes around the country. Um, is the fact that we have a representative democracy, the fact that we have the people get to choose their governance. And so you have an obligation to participate in that. So to please vote. There's nothing more annoying than when people complain that their government doesn't do something for them or they don't like a policy, but they chose not to vote to be part of the solution. So be part of the solution and please vote. In terms of early vote as well, the polls are open 8 to 5 all this week. You can vote at any polling location in Dallas County. And then this weekend, it goes from 7 to 7 and 7 to 7 through next Friday. It's super easy to vote. It doesn't take but 5 minutes, but you know that you've done your duty, that you've participated, that you've made your opinions known as to what direction you want to see this country going in. So, if you like the way that Trump is leading our country, then you can vote that way. But if you don't like what's happening, then vote a different way, and you can make that opinion known, and your vote does make that difference. And so, it's critically important. To decide to vote, know where to vote, and that you need to take an ID with you to vote, and then go cast your ballot.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing this conversation on civic engagement today. Is there anything else that you would like to say to listeners?
Um, just um, just that, research your candidates. Obviously, vote for Julie. No, we can certainly start there. But make sure you vote. I mean, that's really the thing. There's lots of resources online. There's lots of every candidate has items. There's different organizations that put out slate cards. You find one that affiliates with you, and make sure you do your research. It's really important that you vote. And because, especially young people, you have the whole world ahead of you. Housing policy, wage policy, education policy, that all affects you directly. And so be part of your future. Claim it, own it, and vote it.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Uh,
you.